Yeah, I might have lost a part of me while mindlessly acknowledging some shit about my privacy and Mark's updated policies. But it's cool, yeah, I think it's alright. You can have it all, you can take my files. I'ma give it up if it means my life will last for life. Baby, listen, please, I'm telling you I'm sorry that I broke the fourth wall on your Instagram story. Could I make it up to you in the morning? I didn't realize continuity was so important. Baby, listen, please, I'm telling you I'm sorry that I broke the fourth wall on your Instagram story. Could I make it up to you in the morning?
Welcome to round 5 of the Alpha Touring Challenge. Season 10 continues here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. They have a 50-minute race on deck for today, one pit stop, so 10 minutes shorter than our typical 60-minute Alpha Challenges. Might provide some interesting fuel-saving strategies. You got the track temp somewhere in between 23 to 26 degrees Celsius for today, as it has been for most of the day. Partly cloudy, so tires will take a while to come in. Drivers will be dealing with that early. They'll also be dealing with the sheer amount of cars we have here today, because there are 40 cars on the grid. Let's take you through the grid now. Jordan Bachmeier sits on pole for today's race alongside James Carr. Then it is Micah Hendricks, Francois Schink, McKenzie, Bertolucci, Lazan, Tu, Zepka, and Harrison starting in the top 10 of this race. And then continuing down the grid, you see Matt Kingsbury on Delta pole alongside Christian Ost, Clark Lane, Al Ridgely, Clavijo, Saab, and Darnell filling up that group of Delta drivers there at the front. And further on down, we have 30 seconds before the race begins. Patrick Archambault, not a great qualifying day from him. You see Tony Roma there. Nice to see him back today, as well as Joe Camilleri. Always good to see him show up. So we will take you down to the pole sitter, Jordan Bachmeier now. We are just waiting on this race to begin. It should be about 5 seconds. We are just waiting on the red lights. The lights are out, and we are a go here at Mosport. Bachmeier's going to lead them into turn number 1 with Carr on the outside, and Carr's jostling for position as we come down into this big sweeping corner as they try to navigate their way up to turn 2, and James Carr has gotten the best of Jordan Bachmeier out of that corner, and he leads them through down turn 2, and then they come through there. That is a huge drop-off there. You got to be careful to not lose yourself in that grass. They come into turn 3, Jordan on the outside, but Carr still got it. It looks like Christian Ost has held second in the Delta class. Him and Kingsbury side by side. Coming down into turn number 4, Carr firmly in the lead, and I see Ost and Kingsbury still neck and neck into that corner, so we will follow them into Moss. And it looks like, oh, there's a car going wide. That is Anthony Harrison. The rest of these cars are going to file into Moss and out of Moss, and this is a big group to try and push through this entire corner. And now the cars begin their run down the big backstretch. James Carr has a sizable lead over Bachmeier. He should not come under any attack. Matt Kingsbury leads Ost into turn number 8, and Ost is on his back bumper, but nothing that he can do. So we're looking on from the last corner, turn 10. Carr will lead this first lap here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We have been here 4 different times and had 4 different feature race winners. So it'll be interesting to see if that holds. Carr in the lead, Kingsbury in the lead. We have completed 1 lap here at Mosport. And now, it looks like maybe an issue with Lambert Lee. Oh, there's a couple cars that are broken here on the front stretch. Ian Hinneberry's turned around. I believe that was Brian Sawn's car. Yes, he's missing the front end. That's Mark Schrader ahead of him. Looks like Schrader got through without any damage. So we'll cut back up to Mike DeAlmeida, who's just disappeared for a moment. He's got the Delta leaders on his tail end. It looks like that wreck on the front stretch involved Brian Sawn, Ian Hinneberry, Brian Saab. Oh, there's a little impact. And Mike D'Almeida's going to go wide, and he has to take the long road back onto the track. And that's about as good of a rejoin as you can ask for. Maybe even overly cautious. It costs him a lot of time down the straight, but can't really complain about that. Checking back in on the leaders. Micah Hendricks right on the back bumper of McKenzie there. This is a battle for 4th place. Or, excuse me, that is Francois Schink that is attacking McKenzie. His teammate Micah Hendricks is actually ahead in 3rd, trying to hold on to the tail end of the 2 leaders. James Carr and Jordan Bachmeyer, neither of which have a win so far this season. Bachmeyer only in his 4th career ATC start, and he has notched a feature race win in one of those starts. So, win rate of 33%, trying to make it 50% today. James Carr has his fair share of wins in the series. Carr came close to winning the championship last season, and overall has notched a total of 13 overall wins. So, ticking that number up to 14 would be a nice little accomplishment for him. We'll check back in on the midfield here. You're looking at Anthony Harrison, and this is a huge group. Christian Oost has jumped up in the Delta lead, maybe off of what happened at Moss between Mike and I think it was Matt that had that impact. It was hard to tell. But now Matt Kingsbury leads this large group of cars. This must be 10, 15 cars long. You see one of those double yellow cars gained a little bump draft in the back. I believe that was Evan Clavijo making contact there. Now Ray Kingsbury on the back bumper of Damon Mitchell. Mitchell started 23rd overall, so not the best qualifying performance from him. So he's having to cut it through this midfield. He's got Ray on the outside, but nothing doing for Kingsbury there. He has to tuck back in. Mark Darnell and Tony Roma going side by side through the same corner. We see a little bit of smoke. Someone had a little bit of a slide there. I'm not sure who that was, but Darnell gets ahead, stays ahead of Roma through that corner. Out of the last corner and into the first one. Kingsbury side by side, and Patrick Archambault going wheel to wheel with the Yart driver, Jason Breen. Into turn number 2. Kind of hard to hold the outside here, but Breen's going to keep him up a nose in it to keep Archambault on the off the racing line. But Archambault does a good job of gathering back up, and he is back ahead of Breen. Checking in on Al Rijla. He's got some front right damage. Maybe a stack up at Moss, not sure, but Mike D'Almeida is behind him. I don't think that was the case earlier. Now we have more sliding up here. I just feel like every time we go into Moss, we see smoke, but I'm not necessarily catching the incidents themselves. Kirk Lane on the back of Kingsbury, and this whole pack is very close together, but we'll check back in on the leaders. Carr takes a little bit of grass on entry to turn number 8, and Bachmeyer is all over him. There's a lot of pressure coming from that Elantra driver, and the B4D leader is now under pressure into the final corner. Bachmeyer sends it. He puts a nose in there, but it's hard to preserve that momentum, so nothing doing there. A little behind, Lazon trying to make a move on Bertolucci, the SRG driver, under fire, and his defense does not work. Into turn 1, John Lazon is up to P6. He started P7, and now Raymond 2 is going to try and follow him. They are keeping Bertolucci under pressure. He's trying to follow him through. Bertolucci does a good job of keeping it close, and David Bauer's right behind them. He's just looking for something. He's waiting for one of these guys to make a mistake. He supports Bertolucci. He gives Bertolucci a little nudge. Bertolucci with a wiggle, and they are still side by side, and finally 2 is going to have to let him go as they approach Moss. Bauer unfortunately cannot capitalize. We'll jump back to Cody Crosgrove, who's just lost a position to Damon Mitchell, coming out of, I believe, turn 3. So maybe a bit of a bad run there. Maybe Mitchell goes to the overtake. He pulls it off. Mitchell up to 19th. That's now 5 positions gained in the first 7 minutes of this race for the SRG Veloster driver. I believe he is still the only Veloster driver in the entire field, and he makes that thing work. Still the closest battle on track at the moment, Mitchell and Crosgrove. See if Crosgrove does anything to turn 8, but it's kind of hard to do so. It's not really a heavy braking zone, so you have to be alongside already to really do anything going through there. Checking back on Kirk Lane. There's a lot of shuffling on the leaderboard, some of it due to people blipping in and out. But Kirk Lane holding P15 overall, but this is a podium spot, third in the Delta class right now. Christian Ost has a decent margin over the Delta class overall right now. I'd say he's about 3-4 seconds ahead of Matt Kingsbury. 3 seconds. They have the double yellow drivers of Connor Acatella and Eric Statzer between them. So it's a nice little buffer for Ost at the moment. Rolling further down the field, we'll go back to Tony Roma. He's hanging out just behind Mark Darnell and Adrian Fedorowski. He has not shown up in the series in some time. I believe he showed up specifically for Mosport, so shout out to Adrian. Always good to see him. And he is running behind, I believe, this is Andre Karamidaru's first start in the Alpha Touring Challenge. So welcome to Andre, Mr. C, as he is quickly known as. James Carr still holds the Alpha lead. We'll go back to Cody Crosgrove. He's battling with Ray Kingsbury. Both those guys Penguin RC drivers, and I think he's going to yield to Kingsbury down the straight. At the same time, Patrick Archambault gets behind Mike D'Almeida behind, so his charge up the field, it's been even larger than Damon Mitchell's. Archambault, bad qualifying. I'm not sure he got a good lap in. He started in P32, and he's now up to 21st on track. And we're only 9 minutes through this race. Kirk Lane and Anthony Harrison. Oh, there's a little bit of a nudge. We cut in right at the end of turn number 1. Lane's going to keep it in there, and he holds that position into turn number 2. Anthony Harrison's going to look for a little crossover move here. And coming through turn number 3, or into turn number 3. Oh, it's a late move and a little nudge. Harrison gets himself sideways off the side of Kirk Lane's car, and Lane holds that position. Well held by Lane. It was a bit of a late move by Harrison. The space was there, but he came in a little too hot, and in the end, just kind of got himself sideways, and Lane continues on mostly unaffected. Bertolucci and David Bauer. This is the battle for 8th position. Bauer started in 11th, so he's gained 2 spots since the start of this race. Looking for another one here into turn 8. But it's hard to do that from that distance. Really kind of impossible, so we'll have to tuck back in. Now Connor Acatella has caught the Delta leader, and Christian Ost. Now remember, these guys are battling for overall points. It's not per class points, so everything counts here, and these guys are battling for an overall position of 11th. Not that far off from a top 10 finish for either of these guys. Should be a nice grab for both of them, but especially for Ost. Carr and Bachmeyer still very close to each other up here, but Hendricks is hanging on to the back of them. Oh, a little grasp by Hendricks there, though. And then McKenzie's a half second off of Hendricks. And then it just goes on from there. Let's jump back to Guile Ridgely. He's holding on to 18th. That is P5 in the Delta class at the moment. He has Ray Kingsbury on his back bumper. Kingsbury has gained 4 positions since the start of this race. He's gone up from 23rd to 19th. And I feel like every time we check in on him, he's on the back bumper of a different car. So he's been cutting his way through the field quite nicely here. And his teammate Cody Crosgrove just trying to follow him through, I think. Car under more pressure from Bachmeyer. Look at this, into turn number 8. Look at how close these guys are rolling. We're 11 minutes into this race, which means only 39 minutes remaining. You can hear how much off-throttle time these guys are taking through those S's. It's really just about taking the right racing line, getting the nose down with a little bit of trail braking, and that's money. And Carr is cashing in so far in this race. Statzer on the back of his teammate Connor Acatella now. These 3 stacked up behind Christian Ost. A little off track here. We'll cut to Evan Clavijo, but that is nothing. He's just gone a little wide in the corner. I think the text on that front bumper is flipped. Oh, Archambault going wide as well, as I'm distracted by Don't Mind Me. I think that is reversed. Not sure if that's intentional. We'll cut back to Al Ridgely. This is a very close fight. We'll get the aerial view of these guys. Patrick Archambault now caught up to this group as well. So he'll be looking to cut through all three of these cars up ahead. Kevin Clark currently holding P4 in the Delta class. A good performance in what has been a good season, pace-wise, performance-wise, from the Honda driver. 17th overall, but just off a podium position in class. And speaking of in class, Connor Acatella has gotten around class leader Christian Ost. So that simplifies things a little bit for both those guys. Kingsbury might make a move on this straight. Look at how close he is to that Motorsport Racing Team Audi. Trying to get a nose in on the outside. He'll force Alrijla off of his normal line. They almost touch. Kingsbury gives him the space. Now keeping the nose in through turn 9, and that's great racing right there. Alrijla holds on to the position. Difficult to overtake here. You really have to commit to whatever line you have to take in the S's. And look, a bad exit out of the last corner has put Alrijla under pressure again, and now Kingsbury has the preferred line, and he slides right in front. That's a great move from the the Penguin RC driver. Mike D'Almeida and Cody Cosgrove wheel to wheel now. Cosgrove trying to make a move on the Alpha driver. He was a little vulnerable going through turn 2. But now Almeida has the preferred line through turn 3. Will he get the run out of it? If not, Cosgrove may get him into Moss. This is going to be tight, and they have 2 Yart drivers breathing down their necks, waiting for this to go wrong. And Cosgrove is going to take the position. Almeida yields that a bit. The Yart drivers stack up, and maybe a little bit of contact between Breen and Clavijo. But they all continue on, and now Daniel Cedeno has pulled right at the back of this group as well. This is some good racing, some close racing. We'll check in on Kyle Murray. We haven't talked about him all race. Currently P14 in the Delta class, and under pressure from Andre Carmidaru in that yellow Honda. And they are both sitting behind Adrian Fedorowski. So these guys all have been in sort of the same group so far today. This is the battle for 29th, 30th, 31st overall. We'll check back in on them, see if one of them makes a move. We'll go back to the closest battle on track. Cosgrove and Almeida. Almeida, just looking for something, anything he can do here. Once you end up behind someone, even if you have more pace, it can be a bit difficult. You have to... Now see there, Cosgrove makes a mistake mid-corner, but there's nowhere for Almeida to take his momentum, so he just has to slow up. He's looking for a little crossover move here, outside to inside, but you just don't have the time before you get down to the next straightaway. Behind, Cedeno putting Evan Clavijo under pressure. And these guys are still just stacked up. Brian Saab looking at the back of this. Whoa, a little kick from Clavijo, and he's going to go wide and Moss off of that, but he gathers it up nicely, and it was a very small moment, but it was a moment. Let's go on board with Brian Saab, because he's looking at this whole row of cars ahead of him. He's currently in 26th, 10th in the Delta class, looking all the way up to 20th, P5 in the Delta class, Alrijla. And Alrijla and Cody Cosgrove going into the, Cody Cosgrove and Mike D'Almeida going into the turn side by side. And Cosgrove continues to hold that position. You take that inside line and you nail it. You have if you are ahead and if you are ahead going into that corner, you take the inside line. Breen on the inside line going into turn number 1. Now he takes Almeida, and Almeida has been trying so long to get by Cosgrove. He's not getting eaten up by the Yart drivers. Going on board with Clavijo. Side by side, and oh, look at that. Almeida gets back by into turn 2, and now Clavijo has a shot at his teammate, and they're going to go wheel to wheel. The Yart drivers, with Cedeno breathing down their back, roll through turn number 3, and Clavijo holds the outside quite nicely here, and he's going to get around his teammate. Jason Breen probably going to have to yield, and now, oh, look at that! What a move by Cedeno! He knows that Breen has to yield going into that corner. It's going to be a dicey situation, and Cedeno puts it in there, and that is a tight move, but he's pulled it off. We'll jump back to the Delta leader, Christian Ost, now under pressure from Eric Statzer. Statzer trying to follow Connor Acatella through. Statzer trying the inside line, and oh man, a big pinch, but Statzer backs out of it. Ost holds on to that. Ost gave Statzer the minimum amount of room, and Statzer had no choice but to back out. Dicey situation, but those two continue on with racing. Anthony Harrison pulls into the pits. I don't see a whole lot of off tracks from him, don't see damage, so this might be an early pit stop strategy. It could clear him of a lot of the field. He is, you know, he was running in, yeah, he was running somewhere in the top 20. But if you look at the track map, this is going to put him clear of a lot of drivers. So he'll have some open space. Maybe he'll gain some positions on the undercut. When you're kind of in that midfield and you get to the pit window, it can work to go ahead and pit, and then you end up far enough behind the field that you have breathing room, and you can really cut some great lap times in. If you're towards the front of the field, like, say anyone in the top 10 right now probably could not pit and have clean air. So it's just a matter of, you know, taking advantage of the position you're in. Cody Cosgrove went off track, and he has serious damage, and he's going to be limping to pit lane. We are inside the pit window, so he's just got to get there to get that fast repair, that extra car. But that front left suspension is busted. Whatever happened to the Penguin RC driver, it was severe. He's just trying to keep it on the left side of the road at that point and limp it back home so he can continue in this race. But that drops him down to 30th overall. Statzer and Kingsbury going side by side to turn number 1. Kingsbury has caught back up to challenge for the Delta lead, and he's got to get by Statzer first, and Statzer cuts in between the two, rolling down through turn number 2. He keeps that position, but Kingsbury is on a charge. He wants that spot. Bertolucci and Raymond too. We haven't talked about the Alpha drivers much at all in the top 10, so we'll do a little bit of that now. Even Bertolucci and David Bauer still battling for this 8th position. Cody Cosgrove comes to the pit lane to get that fast repair. He does make it. Francois Schink and John Lazon, or Francois Schink has been kind of out here in no man's land. He's about a second off of the top 4. Barely hanging on. He is a second off, so he's not completely out of the tow, but essentially he needs to pick up the pace or hope the leaders start to battle. Lazon and 2, excuse me, that's what I meant to say earlier. They are neck and neck for P5 at the moment. 2's been slowly creeping up to the back of Lazon. Oh, big, one of them went wide there. Now James Carr's gone wide, coming out turn number 1. Look at the tire tracks he's left there, but his lead's now up to almost a second. And behind, Bachmeyer, Hendricks, McKenzie, they don't look like they have anything for him yet. They're all pretty strung out. Checking back in on Bauer, that back gap was pretty close. Statzer and Ost gap's still pretty close. But it's interesting, you know, the top 10 fairly strung out at the moment, whereas the Delta drivers, that's where the real action is. Ost is still holding on to this lead just by the skin of his teeth. 30 minutes remaining in this run here at Mosport. This 5th race, the halfway point in the season. So it's kind of a, there's also, you know, you have 2 drops in the season, so 8 races. We're all out. Let's go for the best possible position. And these drivers you see now, they're fighting for it. With only 5 races to go after this one, and with how feisty the midfield is, a lot of, you know, incidents here or there, it can be encouraging to know that you have those. Oh my God, we've just watched the Delta leader get and a big impact. I thought he was going to keep it out of the wall, but he hasn't. So that has promoted Matt Kingsbury up to the lead, and that was contact with Statzer on the entry to turn 8. I'm just talking about drop weeks. Ost may be using one there. He did have the back-to-back wins in the Delta class last week, but this week it ends in tears. But his complex Simworks teammate, Matt Kingsbury, may have something for him. Both today and in the championship. Kingsbury looking to just bring this one home, but now lurking behind, Kirk Lane and Kevin Clark. in second and third. None of the Delta drivers in the top 3 have a Delta win in their career. So let's keep an eye on this Delta race. Oh no, Kirk Lane gonna go a bit wide, and now Kevin Clark gets promoted. He's up to P2. Clark in P2. He is only 3 seconds off of the new Delta leader. And now Ray Kingsbury and Kirk Lane going side by side down to turn number 8. Kirk Lane just trying to hold on to 16th. And in the span of about 2 laps, the battle for the Delta lead has completely transformed. So we'll check back in on the leaders. Hendricks has lost a bit of ground to Carr and Bachmeier. Now it's McKenzie who's hanging on to the back of him. And there's just a couple of tandems in the top 10. You have Hendricks and McKenzie. You have Lazan and 2, and you have Acatella and Kingsbury. Evan Clavijo comes into pit lane. Cody Crosgrove's still on pit lane. He may have just retired the car after that incident. Fedorowski also coming down pit road. He has some damage to repair, so that'll be a fast repair picked up for him. Clavijo leaves pit lane. 13-second pit stop. Damon Mitchell had a 10-second pit stop. He also pitted, again going for that undercut. Look at how much clean air he has. We'll see where he ends up at the end of this. He has done that strategy that I described earlier on, and I think he's done it quite well. Further down the field, Brian Sullen also pitted. So it looks like 10 to 13 seconds is about what you're looking for a pit stop. Fedorowski is a 13-second pit stop. Kingsbury and, oh man, there's a move. Stats are going to the outside of Matt Kingsbury and now to the inside of Matt Kingsbury. And Kingsbury goes back to the inside of the track. But Statzer gets through. And now around turn 9, right on the bumper. Will he try something into the final corner? No. Statzer has finally cleared the Delta group of drivers. And behind him are fellow Alpha drivers Ray Kingsbury and Patrick Archambault. And Archambault is going to go around Kirk Lane, and Kirk Lane is not going to fight him too hard. Going to let him through. Adrian Fedorowski has had an incident, and he has just used his fast repair. So that's going to be his day done. That is unfortunate. 25 minutes in, halfway through the race, and he's flashing his lights at people driving by. Checking in on Jason Lynn. He's battling with Trevor Lambert-Lee. This is down in 28th position, and he's going to let Lambert-Lee go. And Trevor is now exactly where he originally qualified, but I think it's been a rough day for some of those guys in the midfield for sure. Let's roll back up to, oh, we have an off track, but I don't think anything came of it. Looking at Jason Breen, Daniel Cedeno has fallen off of Breen a bit. And of course, Evan Clavijo pitted, so he is no longer in this group. Tony Romo's gained 5 positions so far in this race. A little bit of front end damage waiting to get fixed for him when he comes down pit lane. But he's had a nice sort of re-debut in the series. I think he last raced for us in season 5 or 6. Al Rizlet is now under pressure from Almeida. Almeida's lost 7 positions since the start of this race. It's been a bit of a rough one for him. He went wide, or maybe got pushed wide at Moss earlier. And since then, it's just been kind of a struggle amongst the Delta leaders. Al Rizlet still waiting to take his pit stop so he can repair that front left damage. I think a lot of people carrying damage from the stacking up on the first couple laps. Karamidaru is down pit road, and oh, he may have missed his pit stop. I think there was a bit of reverse gear action happening there as we checked in, but he has made it to the pit stall. This pit lane, very short. Look, there's the yellow entry cones, and then there's his car. So entirely understandable how someone would miss that. Schink is now caught up to the tail end of McKenzie and Hendricks. So, and we kind of talked about Schink being in a no man's land before. Well, not anymore. He's now firmly in the battle for this podium position. And you know who else is firmly in the battle? Not just for a podium position, but for a win. It's Kevin Clark. Matt Kingsbury under pressure. from the number 89 Honda driver. Clark has just slowly, methodically driven this one, kept it on track. He's gained 3 positions since the start, but he hasn't gotten into any trouble. He's let the leaders sort themselves out, and now he rolls up on the back of Matt Kingsbury, looking for his first career Delta win. And Kevin Clark, as of this moment, he's been in the series for a bit, but Clark has a total of, let's see, how many starts does he have? He's knocked in, this is his 31st start in the series. And no Delta wins, 2 top 10s. So sitting in 14th, this would be not only close to a career best finish, but a first finish for Clark. But same for Matt Kingsbury. Kingsbury, only a couple starts of the series thus far, but looking for his first Delta win. And so far this season, Kingsbury has shown good pace. And I think, you know, you could talk about him being in contention of the Delta lead every week. The leader is on pit lane. Excuse me, I was distracted. I saw James Carr coming down pit road. He's there alongside Mark Schrader. So he's going for an early strategy. Now here we're going to see the flip side of what I was talking about earlier. Damon Mitchell pitted from the midfield, went to the back, and is now logging very fast lap times, undercutting everyone in front of him. James Carr is pitted from the lead, and if we watch this, let's see where he comes out. He's going to come out behind Patrick Archambault, which isn't a huge problem. Archambault's fairly fast, but look at this. The Delta leaders are right in front of him. So I don't know. He was a second and a half, maybe 2. But he was almost 3 seconds, I think, ahead of Jordan by the time he pitted with the superior pace. He had blue flags coming up. We'll see if this pays off for Carr. But for the moment, he's come out into a bit of traffic. Kyle Murray also coming down pit lane. He's getting, I believe he got some damage repaired. Let's see. Anyone else coming down pit road? James Carr is the only driver in that top 10 or so that has pitted yet. Jordan Bachmeier inherits the lead and has a 3-second gap over Micah Hendricks. It's large, it's not insurmountable. I wonder how much fuel saving Bachmeier has been doing compared to Hendricks and McKenzie. Schink, you also have to wonder how much fuel saving he's been able to do. He's been kind of stuck on that bubble just off of McKenzie and Hendricks, so kind of hard to fuel save there. Kevin Clark on pit lane. This is big because he's doing this undercut. If you look at the track map, he's going to sit here for 5. Okay, so he's been here for 5 seconds. He's going to sit here for about 10 more seconds, and then he should come out into fairly clean air. We're going to keep an eye on this because this could be important for the Delta lead. The Trevor Lambert lead coming around. He's pitting 2. So Kevin Clark, let's see. Here comes Ray Kingsbury. Kingsbury will be the only driver in the vicinity. He'll go by Clark, but he's an alpha driver. So Clark's going to have a nice bit of space to work with here, and maybe even we'll have Kingsbury towing him along if Kingsbury has that superior pace. We'll find out within the next couple laps. Archambault is now under pressure from James Carr. You could say maybe holding up Carr a little bit now. Carr will probably have slightly better tires, though have cooled a bit from the pit stop. But I don't know how much of an effect that will have actually had, especially with track tips today already being fairly cool. It probably won't make much of a difference. Breen and Sedano going wheel to wheel again. Sedano has the preferred line into turn 8 this time, but Breen carries a lot of momentum into the outside line, and he's done a good job there to hold that spot. And he will keep that. That is P4 in the Delta class that they're battling for. Patrick Archambault gets out of Carr's way. He is pitted also in that last stall. A big puff of smoke there as he pulls in. Kingsbury is now directly under pressure from Carr. I think it's in his best interest to just let Carr go here. You could then let Carr kind of tow you along car could even maybe help you get by Eric Statzer. Statzer's holding you up. And let's see here. He's still going to stay in the middle of the track there. Kevin Clark, we'll check back in on him. He's on the back of Ray Kingsbury, so he may get a little held up here, but look at this. This is indicative. Archambault, let's see. Let's check their pit lane comparisons here. Archambault only spent 2 extra seconds on pit lane, but Clark is now 3.5 seconds ahead of him. And I think those guys were like neck and neck earlier. So, and here we go. Some of the leaders are now biting. Lazon, 2, Bertolucci, Bauer, all of them are coming down pit lane at the exact same time. And these guys are groups. So this is going to be interesting. We could see a change in these positions here. Acatella's in. The Delta leader, Matt Kingsbury, is in. Kirk Lane stays out. Kingsbury will get that damage fixed. Looking at pit lane here. Raymond 2 is first off pit road. He beats John Lazon. And Ian Bertolucci is going to slot in behind them. David Bauer is last off pit road. Some more drivers on now. Al Ridgely, Mark Darnell, Jason Breen, Tony Roma. James Carr is back on pit lane. And it looks like he may have had some kind of incident with Matt Kingsbury as they came down pit road. Kingsbury's made out okay, but James Carr has had to come in and use his fast repair after already pitting once. He is still in the race, but his battle for the lead is done. So now Jordan Bachmeier, who just set the fastest lap of the race, is on deck to take his second career feature win. McKenzie and Schink now down pit road. Hendricks stays out. And Kevin Clark has emerged ahead. So Kingsbury came out behind Kevin Clark. That means Kevin Clark might be your provisional Delta leader at the moment. Sandwiched between the Kingsbury brothers. 1 Alpha, 1 Delta. Clark's got to try and hold on to this lead as the rest of the field peels down pit lane. Kirk Lane is on pit lane. Brian Saab inherits the Delta lead. Zepka on pit road. Statzer, Almeida, Sedano. Bachmeier and Hendricks still out on track at the moment. They're cutting through. Bachmeier's having to cut through some traffic here. Roma lets him by. He's coming up to Mitchell. Mitchell is technically under blue flags. He's on that undercut strategy. This is the downside to that, is if you aren't fast enough, you risk ending up under blue flags. But I think Bachmeier, nope, Mitchell's going to let him through, but I think Bachmeier will have to pit this lap along with Micah Hendricks. Doesn't cost Mitchell a whole lot of time, though. And yes, Bachmeier's in. So the final cars coming down pit road this lap. Kirk Lane came out ahead of both Kingsbury brothers, and he now leads the Delta class. So the top 3 in the Delta class, all right there, with 14 minutes to play. Bachmeier and Hendricks down pit lane. Bachmeier finally reaching his stall. Hendricks pulling in as well. We'll keep an eye on Hendricks because McKenzie has probably been fuel saving quite a bit behind him. Schink didn't lose a whole lot of time. He only came out a second behind McKenzie, so that gives you an idea of how off he was on fuel saving. It's not that bad. Hendricks out of his stall. McKenzie through turn 1, and I think Hendricks is going to hold it quite nicely. It's the same gap as it was previously, so he has fuel saved as much as the car behind. Bachmeier comes out with a 2.6 second advantage. Let's see if he can hold that. Saab on pit road. So here come Acatella, Statzer, and Kirk Lane is your new Delta class leader, followed by Ray Kingsbury in the Alpha class, and then Kevin Clark and Matt Kingsbury in the Delta class are there to challenge. What else is going on in the field? I feel like we'll be looking at these guys a while. Jason Breen and Brandon Shelton battling for position. Both these drivers have pitted. This is the battle for 29th. Breen will go around Shelton. Haven't talked about Shelton much today, but he's gained 6 spots in today's race, up to 30th position, and running a very nice Miami style livery. And a little wide there, but holding on to P30 there, and 6 spots gained for him thus far today. Kyle Murray running to P23. He's gained 10 spots today, 7 in class, so he's up to P9 Delta, and he's done a great job thus far. Daniel Cedeno up 9 spots overall, 6 in class, running 7th in the Delta class. And Kirk Lane has gained 6 spots, 3 of which have been in class. That's put him in the Delta lead. And behind him, Ray Kingsbury's gained 10 overall, 3 in class. That's a couple. That's our a group of our fastest moving drivers so far today. Patrick Archambault has also gained a lot of positions. He's up 7 so far. He had a 3-second pit stop. That is surprising if true. See stats are going around. Mark Schrader ahead. Schrader a lapped car. And these guys are staying bumper to bumper. 12 minutes left in this race. And a lot that could happen in this climactic Delta fight. Up front, Jordan Bachmeier's lead holds at 2.5 seconds. He's only lost a tenth since they started racing. You see Brandon Shelton letting everyone by there. Or, excuse me, that was Mark Schrader letting that whole group of cars by. Good job serving blue flags for him. We'll check back in on Ian Bertolucci. He beat Bauer out of the pits, but Bauer is now back on his bumper, and he might have a run, enough of a run to try something into turn number 8. We'll see how far alongside he gets. You'll see just how difficult it is. Oh, Bertolucci, though, a bit of a conservative line. Bauer very far outside. He's going to use the momentum to put the nose in, and this is a good move, but Bertolucci holds the outside. Bauer got a little loose. He touched the curb. The car wiggled. He was trying to get the front down to get that extra front end grip, and he just wiggled the back end of it. The margins are so close when it comes to the type of momentum you need to get around people there. Checking back in on Kirk Lane. Kingsbury still not by him yet. Lane going wide there. It's his second off track of the day. And that's the closest battle on track next to Bertolucci and Bauer. They're going wheel to wheel in turn 1. Bauer's finally boxed Bertolucci out, and now still doesn't have the preferred line down into here. He's going to try and hold it, though, and Bertolucci actually backs out, and Bauer has been the bolder, the braver on the brakes through there. Not even on the brakes. That's just a scary high-speed section, and I do not blame Ian for backing out there when you are on the inside being pinched. That is a scary moment. Bauer, though, man, he drives it around the outside. You got to commend him for that. What a move. And he's up into 7th. 4 spots gained on the day for the breakfast for dinner driver. Lane still ahead of Kingsbury, so we'll check in on Schink. Schink has lost Hendricks and McKenzie. He's sort of back to that no man's land, 1.5 seconds back. McKenzie hasn't been able to make any inroads on Hendricks. Hendricks has not been able to make any inroads on Bachmeier. Kingsbury, wheel to wheel with Lane into turn number 8. Lane covers him off, continues to hold that Delta lead. And if you're Kevin Clark, if Kevin Clark and Matt Kingsbury, you are begging Ray, please pass Kirk Lane so that we can have a shot, or make a mistake so we can get by you. But they're racing for overall points. Nobody's doing anything wrong here. Kirk Lane has the alpha driver creating the perfect buffer between him and class competition. Raymond 2 is only 4/10 ahead of Lausanne. These two switched after the pit stop, and so far he's been able to hold off the B4D driver, trying to keep that top 5 spot. We'll check back in on James Carr, because he is back. He's back there with Al Rizla. Those two have been together a bit today. But he's still in P20 despite everything that's happened to him, trying to salvage something. Kingsbury, Matt Kingsbury trying to make a move on Kevin Clark in the Moss. And I think he's going to not have the momentum down the straight. That has cut Kevin Clark off a bit from the 2 ahead. And Matt's going to have another run here. Will he take a look? Yes, he's going to throw it in there, and Clark's going to leave him the space. And Matt Kingsbury is making a very important move here. If he can pull it off, Clark's going to have the preferred line through here. Matt's going to have the preferred line through here. And he's done it. He has gotten past Kevin Clark. Great overtake. That's some good racing. And Kirk Lane, he has a bit of a lead now, but also Matt Kingsbury has been freed to go chase him. Lane fending off Ray Kingsbury still. Kingsbury looking for something. He just wants to go chase after Acatella, and stats are ahead. Damon Mitchell pitting again. Not sure if this is a drive-through. Kingsbury flashing Kirk Lane, but Kirk Lane is in full rights to defend here. Every point counts. Into Moss. Kingsbury on the outside. A little bit of contact, but not a whole lot of room for Ray out there. Tried to turn in, but Kirk Lane's already there. And Damon Mitchell does appear to have pitted. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but his undercut strategy has collapsed as a result, and now he's back to being under blue flag pressure from the leader, Jordan Bachmeyer, whose lead is only at 2.1 seconds now. There's a lot of traffic in this race, a lot of blue flags, situations happening. So these guys, you know, having to navigate this and keep up the speed. You see Hendricks going around, Brian. I believe it's Brian Saab as he lets those guys through. Oh, whoa, I heard a slide somewhere. But it must have been harmless, whatever it was. I heard a slide and a contact through the audio, but I think we're all good. So Hendricks now opened up a little bit of a gap on McKenzie. And Bachmeyer is running lap times about a tenth slower than Hendricks right now. We'll see if that continues. We'll check back in on the Delta battle for the lead. Ray Kingsbury has not been able to do anything, and there are now just 5.5 minutes left in this race. Matt trying to get around his brother, but no dice. And the two may be on different teams, sister teams, but they're going to definitely be trying to work together to get Matt Kingsbury his first Delta victory. And there it is. He lets him through. Matt Kingsbury is free to chase Kirk Lane, and that is what I think we could call some brotherly love. And Kingsbury is looking for the overtake now, and he's looked like the fastest car of this group. He gets past Clark. He closed up to Ray, Ray lets him by, and throughout all of this, Kirk Lane has not pulled away. It's only a half-second gap, so it is still very much on. Look at this, James Carr and Evan Clavijo battling for 18th position. Carr also got by Al Rizla trying to follow him through. But look at this, Clavijo comes back at him into turn 2. This is a nice little move. Clavijo gets into a slide. I'm not sure if he caught the little gutter there. Al Rizla, great job kind of avoiding that, going around the outside. And that is a great piece of racing from everyone involved there. That was great. Now up to Moss corner. Kirk Lane defending. Oh, here's a little move from Kingsbury. They're going to go side by side. Lane's allowed in the space. Kingsbury boxes them out. Kirk Lane comes back on track. There's a little nudge between the two coming down the straight. And now the battle for the Delta lead. It could conclude right here. 4 minutes into this, 4 minutes left in this race. Kingsbury on the inside. Kirk Lane on the outside. Here we go. Down to turn number 8. Lane trying to hold that racing line. Kingsbury slots ahead. Tried to get back inside on the crossover. Not going to happen. And Matt Kingsbury into the lead. Now Ray Kingsbury kind of just drives right through Kirk Lane and then cuts down pit road. And that was a bit of an odd incident. So Matt Kingsbury will take the lead for now. We will cut back to Francois Schink. He is currently dealing with blue flags. A couple of Penguin RC car, Complex Simworks car. Let's see, Kevin Clark now has a shot at catching Kirk Lane, if only for a moment. 3 minutes to go. And, I mean, the Delta leaders are all still right there. And Mike D'Almeida behind. I wonder if D'Almeida is going to try and get into this. Lane now under pressure from Clark. Will Clark try and hold the outside like Bauer did? He just can't keep his nose in. And Lane holds on to that. Kingsbury with a 1.3 second gap now. Lazan got back around Raymond 2. We missed that with everything else going on, but he has completed that pass. So 2 gets by in pit lane, but Lazan faster on track and manages to finally best the Yellow Flag Motorsports driver. Jordan Bachmeier, his lead down to 1.9 seconds, but Micah is just not cutting into it quick enough. I think, you know, he's, as long as Bachmeier can keep it on track, it's looking good for him. And Hendricks has fully separated from Logan McKenzie at this point. That's a 2-second gap. So this top 3 looks pretty solid because Francois Schink is now 4.2 seconds behind all of these guys. Let's go back to, what did we just cut away from, I guess? That was David Mitchell going off track, I think. James Carr and Brian Saab battling for P16. Carr continuing his recovery drive. Going for the little crossover move out of turn 2. Al Ridgely got by Clavijo back there. Whoa, what a move! Look at that! Saab went in there hard. Carr went in there even harder and barely closed his nose around him. That could have ended in tears. We've seen some amazing overtakes so far today. 1 minute left in this race. Jordan Bachmeier crosses the start finish now, and they are waving the white flag for him. So he's looking for career victory number 2 here at Mosport. He would be the 5th different winner in the track's history in the Alpha Touring Challenge. Kevin Clark on the back of Kirk Lane. Down into turn number 8. This battle for turn number 2, or for position number 2. Lane holds it. And Clark can't do anything there. And Kingsbury stays ahead now with a 1.1 second lead. Jordan Bachmeier is coming into Moss now. Onto the backstretch. Well, he qualified on pole. Got beat to first place after a couple laps. James Carr held the lead. Pit strategy didn't work. Bachmeier re-inherited it, and he has shown absolute pace today. He's held off Hendricks and McKenzie. He's dealt with a myriad of traffic. His last victory at Daytona, it was pretty, it wasn't straightforward, but it was a lot different. Very little traffic. You're battling to the line, slipstream battles. This time, it was all technical. It was well done, well measured, and the 151 of Jordan Bachmeier comes home to win his 2nd career victory in the Alpha Touring Challenge in that Brabham branded Elantra. And that is well done. Look at him celebrating that, as he should. Micah Hendricks in P2. McKenzie on the podium in P3. Kingsbury coming down the backstretch. Lane under more pressure from Kevin Clark. And we're going to focus on this battle for a reason here. Lane through the last couple of corners here. And Kingsbury will take the victory on track. But I believe Kirk Lane, after Stewart's decisions, is going to secure his first Delta victory here at Mosport. He held off Kevin Clark. He dealt with some rough racing from the Kingsburys. And he has brought home the victory. And that will be represented in the point standings post-race. 50 minutes of what felt like nonstop action. At the same time, I kind of felt like we were focusing on the same people throughout the race. Shout out to a couple of the drivers who, oh, look at that. These guys coming to the, this is a battle to the line. And Breen barely beats out Andre Karamidaru in his first career start. And that was a tight battle to the end. A little bit of bumping, a little bit of banging. but a great first appearance for him. John Lazon, P5, Raymond 2, P6. We'll get your full results in a moment as the rest of the drivers peel into pit road. This one is done at Motorsport. Round 5 is over with. 5 to go. We'll get your results in a moment. Some incredible racing done here at Mosport today, including a battle to the bitter end in the Delta class and a second career victory for Jordan Bachmeyer. 50% hit rate for him. Let's take a look at those final results for this race. Bachmeyer in P1, Hendricks P2, McKenzie P3. That's your podium in the Alpha class. And then after Stewart's decision, Kirk Lane is your winner in the Delta class, with Kevin Clark in second and Brian Saab snagging that last podium spot in P3. The rest of your results are as follows. Thank you for watching today. Another presentation of the Alpha Touring Challenge done and dusted, and this one was one to remember. Kirk Lane with his first career victory in the series, and what a drive it was. We will return next week at Okayama for a special 3 heat race format. So it's going to be intense, it's going to be fierce, and it's going to be next week. We will see you then. For now, thank you for watching, and good night.